I'm celebrating something special today. It doesn't have to do with writing. It has to do with my special personal project that I've been working on. I implemented the first part of my project today. It happened, so I'm celebrating with a glass of Prosecco, and I'm also celebrating by taking the evening off to write my book. By the way, I'm not going to tell you what phase 1 of the project was, because there's a special video coming out next week that explains it in its entirety, and I really hope you watch that video. You'll get a little hint of what's been going on and maybe a hint of what is yet to come. I don't even have my computer here to tell you what my word count is or the last day I wrote, so I'm just gonna wing it. I think it's been about a week since I wrote. I don't think I've written any day this past week. As I've said before, my personal project is taking up tons of time. I don't have much time to write any day, and carving out this time, even though it's going to be a good thing for me carving out this time to write, it's stressing me out because I'm not spending time doing my project. Not only have I not been writing, and I want to reward myself for all this hard work and my special day today by doing one of my favorite activities, which is writing. I really miss working on my book. I don't get to work on it every day while my personal project is ongoing. And so the days that I really get to work on it are special to me, and they're rare. I also really wanted to write tonight because life has been very busy. Today was stressful and emotional, and I just need some time to chill. I need time to calm down, to relax, and to kind of get my mind off of everything that's going on, and writing will be perfect for that. Where I've left off is actually really interesting. If you've been watching me for a while, you'll know that I've had to rearrange some scenes, which really ultimately I'll have to rewrite a large portion of this book. But I've written up to a point where I think I don't need to rearrange the scenes. Like, my scenes aren't out of order anymore, and I'm not going backwards in time to write more scenes. I've kind of caught up to where I had originally left off, and I wrote some stuff that happened before, and now I finished it, and it's not quite connected. Like, I'm sure there needs to be a chapter or at least a few pages in between, but it's good enough for a first draft, because I want to keep going. I don't want to lose concentration and momentum by trying to figure out the perfect way to bridge like two major scenes. So tonight I'm going into uncharted territory. I'm going to start writing essentially the third act of my book. I do know I'm at, I think, around 62,000 words, so I'm very close to 2/3 of the way done with my novel. So third act it is. And I think it actually does, the way I've structured my story now actually does break up a lot more nicely into a 3-act structure. And what's interesting about the third act is I've always had a few different ideas for how to do the third act in terms of the story. I know certain things that have to happen for the characters, and I know certain things that have to happen for the world, but the story I've always had, we'll say, a few different paths and a few different storylines that are kind of different. And I've never really been sure which way to go. Because I tend to do better at making stuff up as I write, I am going to kind of just start writing and see where it goes. I have some ideas for scenes and certain things that need to happen. I don't know exactly how they'll happen, and I'm hopeful that as I start writing, I'll just figure it out. And then I may end up trying a few different things just to see if this particular story idea works better than the other one, or it flows better, or the characters fit in better. I'll have to do some experimentation, but overall I'm looking forward to kind of solidifying this third act and really making the story come together. I will be working on this third act over the course of this weekend. I hope to write every day this weekend, so Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And we'll see how far I get. This will always, as always, you never know. So let me take some time to get set up, and then I can start writing the third act of my novel. Done with writing for tonight. I wrote 789 words, and I ended at a total of 62,921 words. Overall, a very productive night. The only thing I will say that I was a little disappointed in was, I don't know if any other authors out there have struggled with this, but when I have a good idea for a scene, which is, I've had this idea for a scene for a while. And so I started writing it out, and I had these ideas about how it would be this long scene and it would have this kind of certain impact and it would have lots of details and things and it would be really great. And as I wrote it, there were two things that really bothered me. First, it was really short. This chapter was 2 pages. It needs to be much longer than that. And the second is, when I wrote it, it did not read the way I imagined it in my head. And this really bothered me. The way it was in my head, there was a lot of details, there was emotion, there was dialogue, and there were all these things that made it a really interesting scene and a really interesting idea. And when I wrote it, I was like, this is boring and stupid and it makes no sense. Why is this even in here? I mean, these were the thoughts that were going through my head as I was writing this. And it's just disappointing that I had such a great idea for this chapter. And by the time I finished it, which honestly wasn't that long because it's a 2-page chapter, by the time I finished it, I was so disappointed in it. And I just thought this could have gone so much better than it did. So this is either going to be a chapter that gets axed in draft 2, or I have to really sit down and work hard to make it better in draft 2. I don't know yet where that stands. We're going to find out. So that's it for tonight, and I will see you tomorrow. Saturday night writing is complete. I wrote for about 45 minutes. My plan was to write for an hour. However, I was finishing up the scene I had started last night, and I just got to the best stopping point around 45 minutes in, and I didn't want to start the next chapter and stop 10 minutes later, so I decided to call it a night. I wrote 537 words, and I ended at 63,458. I didn't get to write for a very long time tonight, and that's partially because time got away from me again today. I was busy with my super secret personal project, phase 2. I'm going to call what happened yesterday phase 1, so you'll see that next week. And I'm in the process of phase 2 of super secret personal projects, and this one is so time intensive. So I spent pretty much all day working on this, and by the time I looked at the clock, it was 7 o'clock already, and I just was like, okay, I've got to make dinner, then I've got to write. I always knew I was going to write. I wanted to write for like 2 or 3 hours tonight, but because it was 7 and I hadn't had dinner, I already knew I wouldn't sit down till about 8 o'clock to write, and that's what happened. I sat down around 8 o'clock to write, and it's now almost 9 o'clock, and I want to get ready for bed. I want to rest. I have to wake up early tomorrow to do some work on super secret personal projects, and I just wish I had more time, but I don't want to be tired tomorrow, so I decided to write for an hour tonight. Maybe tomorrow I'll have a little more time. We'll see. Time might get away from me again. I hope it doesn't, but I don't know. I do want to say I really enjoy getting back into writing. I've really missed it. I felt like my creativity was really on point today. I have struggled with some certain things like names and certain world building aspects that require what I would consider some time to think. And I was able to come up with some things randomly. Like, I thought of a really cool country name, and I was so excited about it. So I put that in there. I also thought of like kind of a different little backstory for some of the world building that's going on. It definitely needs to be fleshed out more, and that's a second draft thing. But I put whatever thoughts I had in the story as I was writing, and I'll remember it and know what I'm talking about later when I come back to it. I was really happy with what I wrote tonight, even though it was about 500 words, which I was hoping for a higher word count day. I'm really proud of the creativity that I had tonight. Even though I only wrote 500 words, I was very creative and I had a lot of good ideas. And sometimes good ideas and creativity outweighs your word counts, because I have been needing some creativity in my writing. I know my writing is not great. I think it's rather flat. I'm really happy that I was creative tonight. It's a little bit different. I don't feel this creative most nights, so I don't know what is different about it. But hopefully this will continue. That'd be great. I don't know how long I'm going to write tomorrow. It depends on what I do with my project, how long it takes, how I feel, and other stuff I've got going on. Let's see. I've written so far about 1,300 words between yesterday and today. So if I can write another 500-ish words, I'll be close to 2,000 words in a weekend. And that'll be a good accomplishment for me. I've got stuff I gotta do, and I've gotta get ready for bed. So I will wrap this up, and I will see you tomorrow. I just finished my Sunday night writing session. It was another productive one. I wrote 510 words, ending at 63,968 words total. As you can see, it's still light out. I ended up writing a little bit earlier tonight. I have been so busy with my super secret personal project that I a lot of times find that I don't have time at night, and I wanted to go ahead and write now, and then that frees up the rest of my evening to do whatever it is I need to do. I also wanted to get a head start on editing this video. Because I am no longer ahead in my YouTube videos, that means I need to edit this within the next 5 days. And I have some things going on that some of my days I'm not gonna be able to do this. It's gonna be a challenge, and my goal tonight is just to start getting this in the software and maybe start editing it. But yes, as far as my writing, I started on a new scene. However, I'm starting to feel, I didn't get stuck, but I feel like I might get stuck the next time I try and write. I tend to have ideas in like chunks of time. And so I had an idea like Friday. I was like, oh, this will work for the next few scenes of the book. And so I wrote it. And now I kind of don't know what's next. I know the ultimate plan, which is, the sequence of events, but I don't know how to get from where the characters are now to the next big scene. I have to figure that out. I'm starting to struggle a little bit also because I'm starting to get more into the world building, and the world building is not yet built. So I have ideas as I'm writing like, oh, I need to come up with this concept, or I need to finalize this, or I need to come up with a name for this character in history. I'm starting to get a lot of unfinished details in my manuscript. And at first, maybe like a few days ago or a few weeks ago, that wasn't really a problem. But now what I'm starting to discover is I cannot remember what I've written about. Like I can't remember a character's name I made up, certain details about the past world that I've mentioned previously in the last, say, 10 or 20 pages. I don't remember the details. And because this is relatively unbuilt and not solidified, when I start to get to a point where I need to explain the details, I don't know if I've written about it or not. If I have written about it, I don't remember names or specific details that I've already explained. And it's causing me to have to go back and look at things I wrote before to see what I wrote. And then at the same time, there's a lot of stuff that I just haven't decided yet. And it's really slowing me down because a lot of times I'm like, I should come up with a name for this person, or I should come up with an event that happened, X number of years ago, or this event should precede this event, and I don't really know what these events are yet. So I'm starting to get to this point where it's getting a little discombobulated, and I might have to sit down and iron out some of these details. I'm not sure. I'm gonna see what happens the next time I write, and maybe I do need to stop and work on it, or maybe I can just push through. Overall, I had a really nice weekend writing vlog. I am happy that I wrote for 3 nights in a row. I haven't done that in a very long time. I'm actually not sure when I'm gonna be able to write again. Super Secret Project is ramping up as we speak, and I'm going to have to start spending more time working on that. But as always, I will do my best to keep writing. And once I get through that, I'll be more consistent in my writing for sure. I will take any amount of progress I can get at this point, so I'm very happy with how things have turned out.